Hey everyone, and welcome to TopThink. Today, we're going to learn the crazy truth about human consciousness. Now, let's begin. In the simplest terms, to be conscious of something is to experience it. Well, let's say you're conscious of a piece of candy in your mouth. You experience that piece of candy as a variety of different sensations and feelings, like the sweet and sugary taste or that rewarding feeling of satisfaction that you get from anything you enjoy. You might also be conscious of where you're sitting. You might notice the texture and pressure of the seat against your back. You might feel your tired muscles relax and expand. Anytime you focus your attention on something, you become conscious of the way you experience it. You engage countless areas of your body and brain to create a unique and memorable event. Something you can focus on, understand, and identify. But what does a conscious experience actually look like? The easiest examples come from your five senses. Whenever you actively see, hear, smell, taste, or touch something, you experience it. But not all experiences rely on sensory perception, because not all of them exist in reality. You can just as easily experience abstract concepts. While some scientists might disagree with me, you can also turn your conscious attention toward feelings, questions, and ideas. Emotions like anger and love can sometimes feel more real than anything that you see or touch. This definition of consciousness raises an interesting question. Does this mean that experiences like perception and emotion don't really happen unless you're conscious of them? You've probably heard this philosophical question before. If a tree falls in the forest and no one's around to hear it, does it make a sound? This seems like a simple scenario. However, in context, it deconstructs the way you perceive your environment. Let's say you're looking at a red car parked on the street. If someone asked you what color it was, you could tell them right away. It's red. You experience the color red. So doesn't that mean it's red? Well, think about it this way. If there's no one there to perceive the color of the car, is the car still red? Most people would instinctively say, yeah. It's tempting to believe that everything you perceive is factual, but your brain is constantly putting its own spin on the world around you. Color, for example, is not something nature creates on its own. Colors form when waves of light are either reflected or absorbed by the surface of an object. That car looks red to you only because the reflected wavelengths are interpreted as a particular color by receptors in your eye. In other words, if you don't experience the color red, it isn't actually there. So, if colors only exist through your own eyes, doesn't that suggest that experience relies on consciousness? The answer is still pretty unclear. So let's try another scenario. You're playing football with a group of friends when you accidentally roll your ankle. Normally you'd be in pain, but there's so much adrenaline pumping through your body that you don't even notice you're hurt. Since you aren't consciously suffering, are you actually in pain? Now, obviously, your ankle is still physically injured. Your muscles are strained, your tendons might have torn. Your cells are working overtime to repair the damage. But your ankle, despite being hurt, cannot experience pain on its own. It can be scratched, bruised, and bent, yet until your conscious brain gets involved, your ankle will never experience pain or suffering. These are subjective experiences created by and reserved for your conscious brain. It doesn't seem like it, but pain and suffering are just feelings. Some scientists define pain as your brain's conscious interpretation of alarming physical stimuli. If your brain is able to ignore those stimuli, then the experience of pain doesn't exist. One of the best examples is a rare disease called congenital insensitivity to pain, or CIP. If someone has this disease, they can't experience pain. Now, of course, that doesn't make them invincible. Someone with CIP can break a bone or cut their skin just like everyone else. They can injure their physical body, but their conscious brain won't react. They don't understand the idea of pain because their brain cannot properly communicate with their nerves. Since they're not conscious of the pain, people with CIP don't feel anything when they get hurt. In fact, it's common for people with CIP to die from an untreated wound they didn't know existed. A similar thing would happen to your body during that game of football. The adrenaline stopped your consciousness from recognizing negative stimuli, so as a result, you didn't experience any pain. With these two examples in mind, let's go ahead and think back to our original question. Do you need to be conscious of something in order to experience it? So far, the answer seems to be yes, but it's undoubtedly complicated. To get a better understanding of this concept, let's take a closer look at how events turn into conscious experiences. Consciousness almost always requires attention, right? Well, the average human only has so much attention to give. Our brain is only capable of focusing on a few individual things. That helps to think about conscious attention like a microscope. When you look at something under a microscope, you see a small amount of things in extreme detail. Attention works the same way. It's incredibly useful for perceiving and analyzing a select few things, but your consciousness isn't that great at multitasking. So, what happens when thousands of tasks need your attention at the exact same time? Because during every minute of every day, your brain is responsible for controlling and maintaining your entire body. The smallest actions, like picking up a pencil, require dozens, if not hundreds, of anatomical processes. But you do them all without even thinking. The truth is, if our conscious brain had full control, no one would ever accomplish anything. You'd be way too preoccupied with every breath and heartbeat to notice more unique things like sensations and emotions. That's why the unconscious part of your brain takes care of those repetitive processes for you. Your unconscious essentially keeps you alive. It makes sure your blood's always pumping and your nerves are always firing. Now, of course, you don't actually experience any of it. Go ahead and take a minute to concentrate on your breath. Don't just think about the fact that you're breathing. Feel the air as it passes through your nose. Focus on how it fills your lungs. You might notice that experiencing a breath seems a little strange. It's something you do all the time, yet you rarely pay attention to the way it feels. So why is that? What makes some events conscious while others remain completely unconscious? Your mind experiences particular events for dozens of different reasons, but there are 4 characteristics that attract your attention more often than any of the others. The first one is novelty. Your conscious brain is naturally attracted to stimuli that are unique and unfamiliar. Just think about the last time you drove past a car crash. Were you paying attention to the road, or were you more interested in staring at the accident? Your brain discovered something new and possibly exciting. It diverted your attention away from a boring stimulus, the road, and toward a novel stimulus, the crash. Countless studies have proven the effects of novelty on attention. One particular study actually measured the effects of novel objects on different parts of the brain. The researchers discovered that novel stimuli light up huge portions of the left hemisphere and the right visual cortex. Both of these areas play an important role in attention, perception, and the integration of information. The second characteristic that grabs your attention is significance. When something is more important, you're more likely to prioritize and experience it. Significance can, however, come in different shapes and sizes. An important stimulus might be larger, fancier, or have some sort of predetermined value. There needs to be something to make it stand out from the crowd. That's why you don't experience the faces of every single person you pass on the street. Your body is unconsciously taking in all of that visual information. It's there somewhere, but your conscious brain chooses to ignore it. Why? Because it isn't important. All of those strange faces are not worth experiencing and storing in your memory. The third is intention. This one's pretty simple. If you want to focus on something, you can. That's why you can experience your breathing when you want to, even if you ignore it 99% of the time. Or why you can sit and focus on a boring lecture. You're making a choice to commit your attention to something because you're conscious of the reason why. The fourth and final characteristic is expectation. You're much more likely to be conscious of an experience when you're expecting it to happen. This is a trick that haunted houses use all the time. They create an environment where you're constantly thinking about an impending jump scare. Every time you walk around a corner, you're mentally prepared to jump or scream. You're constantly experiencing fear throughout the attraction, even if there are only a handful of scary moments. So, what can we learn from all this? Your consciousness is sort of like the supervisor of your brain. It takes on the most interesting and important projects while letting the boring work filter down into the unconscious. Now, of course, you need your unconscious to function, but your conscious is what gives you direction, understanding, and continuity. To answer our question from earlier, experience and consciousness seem to be inexplicably linked. It's hard to imagine how one can exist without the other. While your unconscious decides if you live, your conscious determines how and why. Every experience, from the colors you see to the pain you feel, is a product of conscious interpretation. So, the next time you're standing outside, go ahead and take a minute to examine the world around you. Ask yourself this: how much of my world exists, and how much have I created for myself? It's a much more complicated question than you'd think. Thank you for watching TopThink, and be sure to subscribe because more incredible content is on the way.